Life's too short to drive boring cars. So if you've been browsing the classifieds, you're probably wondering, why is it that used Jaguars are just so cheap? Well, I was wondering the same too, and then I investigated, and that's why I ended up buying one. Stick around so I can explain it all right now. So after a little bit of investigation, I found out there's 4 key reasons why used Jaguars are very, very cheap on the used car market. And the first one is probably no huge shock, and it has to do with maintenance and reliability costs. A lot of people don't want to get sucked into that. The first owners are fine. Why? Because there's warranty. But it becomes after, once the vehicle's 3 or 4 or 5 years old, a lot of the warranty's gone or running out, and people are scared, and often that drives prices down. They don't want to get tangled in to a big nightmare. On top of it, it's the association or death by association of Tata Motors as well as Range Rover that has people really quivering in their boots, and they don't want to buy these cars on the used car market. For example, you get a car like this and you'll notice here, look, it's obviously sprung a leak. There's a big oil leak. Why do you think you have all that fancy shine on there? So that's probably going to be an expensive repair. Or you get cars like this, you'll notice it has the 35T all-wheel drive, beautiful car in the XE, and you cycle around. What's not to love about this? They have great wheels on there, they have a stylish exterior, lots of technology, British engineering, which truly is a double-edged sword because technology is great, but reliability often takes a little bit of a back seat. So Jaguars using superchargers and turbochargers in a lot of their different vehicles. And as a result, you have lots of heat, you have potential failures, and it's those very drivetrains that can get very, very expensive to repair and maintain. As a matter of fact, some statistics show that the industry average for luxury car annual maintenance is about $1,100 per year. And many of the Jaguars, particularly the V8 powered models, which this is not, but many of them do see about a $1,400–1,500 a year annual service cost, just to keep these vehicles on the road and compliant with the warranty. And did you know some of the models have up to 38% major failure rate by the 10-year mark, which makes it very, very expensive or knowingly expensive to keep beyond the 4 or 5 year time frame. But do you think that number sounds tragic? Surprisingly, it's actually not. In the luxury car segment, by the 10-year mark, Jaguar actually betters the average competition by about 3%. So while there's a perception of high maintenance costs and lacking reliability, the fact of the matter is they're really no worse than driving a BMW or Mercedes or any other luxury import. Now, I'm not going to pretend they're cheap vehicles to run because they're not. As a matter of fact, a lot of the Jaguars, you're talking about a lot of the sensors that even, for example, in a windshield, you drive in a lot of areas where they're subjected to getting a lot of rocks in the windshield and you're having to change windshields on an annual basis. Well, guess what? A lot of the cars with the humidity sensors built in, rain sensing, and all of the other safety nannies that get dialed into that windshield actually creates a windshield that can cost up in $3,000–4,000 in Canadian funds if you're buying it from the dealer. Also, because a lot of these engines now are direct injected, fuel injectors are expensive, turbos and superchargers can be expensive, and there can be a certain expense in owning any of these modern day Jaguars. But the beauty is, Jaguar is actually offering a pretty comprehensive extended warranty. Some people say that it doesn't cover everything and you've just really make sure you've got to read the fine print, but for an extra couple grand, it can cover your butt in a lot of the bad high dollar repairs. Now, the second reason why used Jaguars are cheap on the used car market has to do with the reputation. Who's buying used cars? Obviously, it's going second, third owners are obviously people that are slightly less well-heeled and they're buying these cars at a discount from new. You could be talking about a $100,000 car when it was new, now discounted, slightly used for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 after a couple minimal years. But it's that very clientele that doesn't quite have the money, often is the youthful buyer. And many younger buyers are looking for other alternatives. They're not thinking Jaguar, they're thinking WRX STIs, BMW M3s, subcompact Audis, BMW M4s, and Mustangs are high on their list for purchases. We also can't forget about the Infiniti G35, G37s, as well as a whole host of different Acura cars. Are very popular vehicles, so they're not looking for Jaguars. Who's shopping for a used Jaguar? It's not that top executive. He or she can afford to buy that car brand new, and they do. So who's buying that 5-year-old Jaguar that's out of warranty? Not many people. Well, that nosedives the respective value. And of course, it's that very reputation that only old guys drive the Jaguars that prevent the younger buyers from buying them at all. And the third reason is really popularity, and it's basically an extension of the last comment, which a lot of people don't realize they can get a nice upscale premium British luxury car for a relatively song and a dance, and regardless of reliability or maintenance costs, people just seem to gravitate to the BMWs and the Benzes and the Audis of the world, even if those cars aren't necessarily any more reliable. It's the fact that Jaguar, Land Rover, Range Rover are relatively niche models and brands, and often aren't the first go-to when shopping for a new or used car. And the fourth reason why people aren't buying used Jaguars as much is because the ferocious interest on finance and lease rates for brand new vehicles. Now, scouring the Jaguar website, you'll find most of the finance rates are around 3.9%, and many of the different models have a 3.9% for lease as well, with the exception of a few certain models. With the F-Type being one specifically, they probably don't want those cars coming back on a lease return because of the performance basis of that vehicle, and they know that people are going to generally drive them kind of hard. But about a year and a half ago, I personally bought a 2018 Jaguar, got the extended warranty, and because that was before the chip crisis, Jaguar couldn't give away their used car inventory. People didn't want them, so interest rates were very, very low and aggressive. So lo and behold, I took advantage. I bought the extended warranty, which protected me for another 3 years. And here's the kind of car that I bought. Right there, we bought the Jaguar F-Type R. These are beautiful cars with all the curves and the lines. There are very few cars on the road that have this type of style and sex appeal to them. Obviously with aggressive front spoilers and valences on there and splitters that stick out like a strong underbite, oversized calipers, large brakes and wheels, great accents, folding mirrors with great lights, more aggressive rocker panels, ferocious rear fender flares. You've got the quad exhaust pipes and the great LED rear taillight assembly. We also can't forget about the 550 horsepower supercharged V8 that does 0 to 60 in about 3.4 seconds. It's ferocious, and it's coupled to one of the best automatic transmissions ever. It shifts almost as quickly as a dual clutch. But these cars are outfitted with the ZF automatic 8-speed gearbox with paddle shifters and a variety of different driving modes, including the dynamic mode, which allows you to alter the stiffness of the suspension, changes the tone of the exhaust, and ups the intensity of the steering as well as throttle response. When I bought my 2018, it was actually $130,000 brand new, and I bought it for $70,000 Canadian, meaning in about 2 years' time, it was only worth about maybe 55% of the new car value, but it only had 30,000 kilometers on it. And I had the extended warranty to last as long as the original factory warranty would have. So from where I'm standing, looking at a 550 horsepower British supercar for the same price as a 350 horsepower BMW 6-cylinder engine car, it was an absolute no-brainer for me. And so the fact that these Jaguars are cheap on the used car market is actually a huge win for you and for me. And with all of that said, I wondered the same thing about used Mercedes. And as a result, check out that video. That's going to explain the whole reasoning why used Mercedes-Benz are so cheap. And I actually bought one of those as well. Hope to see you on the next one. Catch you real soon. Bye-bye.